I'm James Dunn, and you're listening to Bears Beyond the Gate.
You're listening to Bears Beyond the Gate, a Bristol Bears podcast made by fans for fans, with 3 season card holders at Ashton Gate who love the club, the game and all things Bears. Well, it was yet another banger in BS3 on Saturday, but we came agonisingly close to beating Saracens for the first time in a while, but lo and behold, 1 point up, 90 seconds to go, and we managed to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. We listen to a few fan comments on the game, we talk about it ourselves, and we just think about where we went wrong. But they come thick and fast, so next Friday we have Northampton Saints at the Gate, and of course last season we did the double on them. We talked to Tom Vickers from the Northampton Echo and Chronicle, who gives the lowdown on the Saints. There was also a women's game in the double header on Saturday. Miles and I have got something to say about that. And also we have a bit of any other business, a few shout outs and a few discussion points that came up from yesterday. I'm Pete and I'm joined by Lee and Miles for a cheeky beer and a bit of rugby banter. Lee, you're laughing.
I'm laughing.
What have I done?
That was definitely his telephone voice, wasn't it? I've never heard you speak with that exact telephone voice before. But I'm actually impressed, Pete, because you sunk a few pints, didn't you, yesterday? We were enjoying the entertainment. You sound very clear.
Well, I mean, talk about family day. I mean, I took my family there, but as soon as I got rid of them, and then I got on the beers. About you, Miles?
Yeah, I'm still suffering a little bit. I have to admit to fans that I was nearly heading for a pint of Clearhead. For those fans who don't know, we're obviously back in our little home at the Bristol Beer Factory studio bar, and they've kindly given us a beer, but at the last minute, I got persuaded or jibed by Lee and Pete to have a proper beer. So
you've gone for say my name again, haven't you?
Yeah, say my name, and just the one this evening.
Well, I actually thought Miles was doing his one-man Mexican wave yesterday, the way he was swaying. I thought he was just waiting for a few other people to get up with him, wasn't he?
Yeah, like you said, as we got rid of the responsibilities of our family, it all went a bit wrong, and Pete and I sunk a few too many beers, but we've made it back this evening.
Yeah, more about that later. Well, anyway, let's get straight into the game, boys. Just slightly change the structure around this week. I like to keep things fresh, keep things different. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to start with just quickly analyse what the two DORs said after the game, because obviously it was this incredibly pulsating contest and some fantastic rugby on show. And after the game, Pat obviously said that, we're disappointed, but there was a lot of quality in both rugby teams, and certainly from our boys. I love the way he calls them boys all the time, because it does fit into that narrative of him being the headmaster. Yeah, anyway, let's move on from that. He said, I can't fault the effort, but it's pretty clear we left a lot of points out there. A lot of tries we could have scored, opportunities we created and didn't finish. I think we've got 5 tries to 4, but there was a lot of other tries and points that we didn't take. Kind of said that twice, but it was quite important. Yeah. But then Mark McCall afterwards, he was quoted as saying, I've been at this club for a long time and I cannot remember a win like that. There were so many occasions when it felt like they were on top and somehow there was this fighting spirit amongst the group. Their attack is superb. It is unique in world rugby. No one is attacking the way they are attacking, and they make you feel bad a lot because a lot of their line breaks are 30 to 4 metres, and somehow we found a way to get back and fight and somehow won the match. Well, boys, I mean that's a hell of a
statement from Mark McCall.
Exactly, and we have our feelings about Saracens, but he is a quality operator, and to get that sort of kudos from Mark is good. But I tell you what, boys, we've got another surprise. Those are the DORs. Yeah. But after the game, who did we bump into? But our mate James Dunn.
Dunny.
And Dunny is a friend of the pod. He's one of 3 players who follow us on Instagram. So he's been there from the beginning of our Instagram journey. And he was very, very kindly decided to give us a post-match soundbite. So let's listen to it.
Obviously disappointed. Very disappointed to not get over the line. We're 30 seconds away from winning that game, but we look at the team we got and we're a young team, only positive strides, so disappointed, but definitely a positive spin on it. A good group of Bristolians who are proud to play for Bristol, and Bates's had a bit of a tough time with injury. He comes on, smashed it, so it's good to see, and like the future's only positive, I think.
So just a little bit of insight for us, like big hard game today. How do you recover from this?
A few boys will be in, sort of ice bathing tomorrow. Probably, I reckon, after a loss, it's a quiet night in, I reckon, tonight. But yeah, ice bath, sauna, and then Monday we'll review it, watch the whole game back together, and then just go through little work-ons to crack on into training Tuesday, really.
So there's Dunny for you. I mean, a very
great lad, isn't he?
Great lad, really well balanced. He was actually he was wearing a nice little jumper. He was quite
A
smart.
few of the lads were. They got this sort of smart sort of jumper they were, haven't they, after the game?
And I like the fact he was coming back into the Lansdowne clubhouse at the time. So
Yeah.
I think there's been a definite move away from them just coming out the media centre, going to their cars and driving.
To be honest, I don't think it was the players that actually kind of...
No.
They were told, weren't they, that we don't kind of hang around too long and stuff, but it's great to see the boys back in.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also, we should say, Miles and me did end up in the sports bar as well later on, and actually lads came through there as well. So it's even if they just coming through and going, I think that's created more of a...
It's important for the sort of fans, isn't it, really, to sort of mix with us, with us normal folk, have a bit of a chat, and we like to give them praise, so, may it carry on.
Yeah, and more importantly, it was family day, as we've, previously said. And a lot of the youngsters, they want to see the players, they want to see the James Dunns, because they're their inspirations, aren't
the
they?
youngsters, yeah.
So it's great that, that the lads do that.
Well, I mean, it was interesting what all three of those three people said. I mean, Pat's basically alluded to the fact that I think all of the fans who were at that game would actually agree with. Ding,
Sorry, it was a bit late.
is the fact. Yeah, you were necking your pint at the time. Was that we left a lot of points out there.
We did.
And of course, it came down to a last-minute penalty that we gave away right at the minute. But reality is, I don't think we should have been in that position to give away that penalty. And Mark McCall, was very, very complimentary about the way we attacked. And I wrote the Post article today, and I think I put a phrase in like, it was an insanely exciting performance in terms of running and offloading. So, Lee, go for it.
Okay, right, wait a sec.
There we go.
That's the first one of the
Typical. Just as I'm asking a question, he goes to the can. Anyway, Lee, you're the first on the thing. What's your thoughts?
So, I want to have a different take on it slightly, because I agree with everything that you've said. We left points out there. I don't want to be critical of any of our players, actually, because the way they played was exactly what we've all been wanting them to, the way we wanted them to play, and I hope that they keep in that vein. I know we could talk about game management at the end, but again, I don't want to really talk about that. We could talk about AJ missing his kicks. From his kicks, he's probably the worst.
I think it was 6 points.
Yeah.
3 conversions.
Three, yeah.
So it's not that many.
Let's not talk about that. Let's talk about Sarries. Let's talk about the way they constantly cheat and the way they get away with it all the time. And a family show, so I'll try not to swear about it. But it just seems like when Sarries are playing, the linos, they're like chocolate teapots. You know what I mean? I don't know if they stick a blindfold on or what, but there were so many offsides. And I know Rich behind us, bless him, he's always an advocate of shouting offside, but
I think he's got the world record of the number of offside
He's spots in one game.
In 80
I'm sure he has. But I mean, it was when it was so blatant, Pete. We were there, weren't we? And we were tearing our hair out. And I know we left points on the board, and ultimately, I'm proud of every single one of them on the pitch. But I just think, I don't know, probably bitter and twisted. But I just think they get away with so much, and it jars me off. I mean, I don't even think we should have had Lazowski should have even been on the pitch. So if he's not on the pitch, he doesn't score the 3 points. I know someone else could have stepped up and taken that. But there's a lot of things
Daly.
then. Yeah. I mean, Daly had a blinder, and I'm blaming you for that as well, because you've slagged him off for years and years, and he's come and played the blinder. But I just feel like I feel we lost that game rather than Sarries won it. And that's, I hold my hands up. That's my own opinion, but I don't know what you boys thought.
Well, that's your opinion. It's very interesting, Lee. I like Miles. What about you? If you can remember the game.
Yeah, I can. Well, I did up to that point. I guess putting aside our thoughts on refereeing, Sarries, testing the boundaries of legal rugby or not. I mean, how can you not come away from that game yesterday as a Bristol fan and feel immensely proud that we nearly got there? I mean, if you think we had, I think I've counted at least 7 of our what probably would be first team players out as injured.
Big names.
And big names, you know, we've not seen Matty yet, have we? The Matter, the Luatura, the Williams, the Van Rensburg, the Malins. I mean, you know, in the week, I would have taken 2 points, but at the end of yesterday's game, I was hugely disappointed. We nearly got there, you're right, there were a few things that didn't go quite right. A bit of ill discipline and game management, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but you know, we gave it a go, and fantastic that the youngsters like Jenkins and Bates, these are sort of, you know, came on and played a huge part in that effort. Brilliant all round. Apart from the loss, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, boys, I think I'll pick up on a couple of things you said. I mean, the first thing about Sarries cheating, as you said, but I mean, in a way, that's kind of that's what forwards do. That's what the All Blacks have done all their years. That's what most forwards do. And there is a very fine line between pushing the boundaries of the laws until you get told not to. And I think Saracens are very good at that. And actually, that's what they did in the last quarter. They were trying to spoil. They knew we were on top, and they kind of did what a very well drilled team that are very used to doing that did. And it isn't right, and it is frustrating. And it's particularly frustrating when you feel that they're pushing the offside to just squeeze the space. They're only, in a way, they're very, very good at it, and it is really, really hard for the ref sometimes to deal with it because it's a fast flowing game. It's just disappointing that it just wasn't managed as well as it could have done. So I totally disagree with you. Agree with you. However, you know, we had enough chances in that last quarter to put that game away. And I'm just looking at the timings. We were winning at 2017. I think 2017 at half time was a pretty fair result. Yeah. You know, we'd scored some fantastic tries. Fitzharding was on fire, but they'd scored a couple as well. You know, Segun, the try he scored, I mean, no offence to Fricks, but he totally stepped him. Yeah. And that was just a great winger's try. Fitz got his Fricker got his revenge in the second half and got his own fantastic try. So it was a fair first half, and I actually felt pretty confident at half time. I thought we could go on and win this. And then 2 insane tries in the first. Well, it was the first 5 minutes of the second half, put us 32-17 up, and actually looking like we were on top. We were looking in control, but Daly scores 47. They get a penalty, and suddenly it's 32-27 after 53. But then at 60 minutes, it's 35-27, and then from 60 to 74, that was when we were in there. We were in their 22 for a lot, and we turned it over. And there was some great, you know, we were playing well. We were keeping them exactly where we wanted them to be, and it was just frustrating that we didn't quite make it.
I don't know what you boys think, but I just felt there was only one team playing rugby out there. That's how it felt.
Well, they were playing off our scraps.
Yeah.
But they're playing off our scraps. But we know that they're a good enough side that we can't give them scraps. Can't give them scraps. And we gave them a couple of juicy scraps. And then when you give Elliot Daly, who again, I take my hat off to him, was just look class. Give him a couple of juicy little scraps. He gobbles those bad boys up.
He was world class yesterday, wasn't he?
It actually reminded me when I was in Wales and had a Bargoed. That's easy to say after a couple of pints. And you remember when Jonathan Davis threw that pass out? Yeah. And I think Farrell got it, threw it out to Daly, and he went over in the corner. Yeah. And he played an absolute blinder, Daly, yesterday, and it reminded me a lot of that try when he scored.
Yeah. So regardless of that, we then get to 35, 34 up. Don't we? It's tight. It's really tight. But we're in their half.
And there's a couple of minutes to go.
It's 90 seconds. It was 90 seconds, and we pick and go.
Bit like last week.
We pick and go, and the trouble with pick and go is you're going back into the forwards, and the refs are going to be so looking for any hint of not releasing, any hint of sealing off, and lo and behold, we gave away the turnover. They go get a line out. They go one phase across, and then there's a ruck, and a hand goes in the ruck. We thought the ball had squirmed out and someone had flopped on it. I think the highlights have now shown that somebody, and I don't think it's fair to name it, people know, but somebody took a risk. Took a risk to go over the ruck and try and disrupt the scrum half, and it got pinged. And it ultimately was the point, the penalty.
Well,
they
were setting up for a drop goal, weren't they?
Yeah.
So you could fully
but
understand.
But they knew the penalty was coming. They knew the penalty was coming. That's why they did the drop goal. They knew it because the ref
shot to nothing.
Shot to nothing.
Absolutely.
So it was frustrating because obviously that was the tiny thing that gave them the points to win. But I just think that we create, as you rightly said, we lost that game. We snatched defeat from the jaws of victory, and having played some insane rugby. And listening to the highlights, the commentating, some of the commentary was just like poetry. They're like saying the magical turf of Ashton Gate,
and it wasn't the nonsense that we had at the Chiefs game as well. It wasn't
Nick
full
Mullins,
of superlatives. It was proper rugby commentary.
So
can I just shout? There's one thing that I want to say now, and twat of the year was definitely that bellend Sarries fan at the end of the game who threw his pint up in the air. I get the fact that he's excited his team have won, but I mean, I just thought, what an absolute
to explain to listeners a bit of context. So in the Dolman, quite near us, that in the kick, I mean, there was a lot of booing of the kick in. That might be part of it as well. And I think there's an element of that, and I didn't agree with that. I think, although that's a debate for another time about whether we should boo or not, I personally think it was booing because people weren't sure about penalty. They were upset about other things that had happened. But I think the Sarries fan, when it went over, it was unnecessary. I mean, there's one thing booing, there's one thing lobbing a whole pint of over about 10 fans in front. And that was unrepresentative of a lot of the Sarries fans.
Yeah, absolutely. It was one
and I'd like to think that also, don't think people on TV think that every Bears fan boos all the time as well. It was one of those things. I mean, come back to what Miles, something you said was... And actually, that James Dunn...
You've done it again.
I'll tell you that. Let's rewrite. One thing that James Dunn said was the fact that we had these young lads playing, the fact that we had Joe Jenkins, we had Jack Bates, we had George Kloska, we had Joe Owen, who played virtually a whole game.
And coming on as well.
And they were head-to-head, toe-to-toe, knee-to-knee, whatever you want, with a quality side. And I think that was... The fact that those guys are going to be disappointed and gutted just shows how far they've gone. And let's be honest, that is not necessarily going to define our season, that game. It's frustrating to think we haven't beaten them again when we could have done. It's frustrating to think that although we're supposed to be making a fortress at Ashton Gate, that we've still got a bit of work to do on the drawbridge and we haven't built the moat yet, have we? We haven't even filled it with water.
We've not even dug it up.
And we've still got the lads, there's none of the boys with the oil.
The diggers aren't in yet.
And it's right away, isn't it? The Armada travelling away. It is storming, but you're right.
We haven't got those, those massive catapults they have with all the rocks on them. We haven't got them set up yet, have we?
They're not working.
It feels like one of those dens that I used to make from my kids when they were younger. That's what it feels like.
Think it looks...
We do need to go back to the Normans and get some tactics on castle building, don't we?
So anyway, that's a nice... I'm sure a few history teachers out there are going to pull us up on a few of those references.
I'm sure they are.
But I think the point is it is disappointing, but it isn't going to define our season. I think we have proven in the first 5 games of this season that we are going to be up there.
Yes.
I think we're going to be up there. Injuries permitting, but we're going to be up there. And do you know what's really exciting? Everybody's talking about Bristol again now.
Absolutely. We're everyone's second favourite team again. And I mean, the youngsters, like you said, Pete, have stepped in. And do you know what? At some point, we've got to put them in. But these guys have stepped up. And, when we're talking about youngsters, Joe Jenkins, he's had game time. He's brilliant. He's so classy. Yeah. Bates, he's got 39, 40 caps, I think. Maybe more than that for
appearances. Yeah.
And, old school.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? These guys, they've been around. They've been on the fringe. Kloska's been on the fringe. Capon's been on the fringe. You know what I mean? They're there, aren't they? And I think with the small squad that we've got this season, these guys stepping up is brilliant. It can only do good for us moving forward.
No, I think it's really, really good. I suppose that the summary for that game is, again, red zone efficiency, which was unbelievable at Bath. that won us the game at
of
Bath
course.
was lacking. So it's that, consistency with and without the ball. And we were
looking
very
cheap.
consistent with it. We just need to be more consistent without the ball. And it will come.
But do you know what? I would say that was the first time this season that we've not been that clinical.
No, exactly.
I think we just snuck ahead in possession, didn't we? 55%, 57% territory. Meters-wise, 809 metres gained versus 502.
That's going back to the old days of
It is.
Beer
Exactly.
Tower and,
Like we do know. It was interesting to see. We run it from even our 5 metre line, don't we? Which we were famous for in our 22. But look, what I did like yesterday, and Pat suggested that after a few phases not working, we do change it up. Yeah. And to be fair, we did that yesterday.
Yeah,
Harry Randall kicked out to gain territory and to calm things down. So we're not running everything 100% of the time. No, I thought that's fair play. There is a plan B, and actually that doesn't work,
which we've been calling for years.
Yeah. And we're looking for opportunity, and if it's not on. But when we kick, we're not box kicking. Box kicking is kicking to contest.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that was the thing that is just anti-rugby. Yeah. We're kicking for territory, or we're kicking to clear, or we're kicking into space. And I think that is our game plan now. And I said this in the post as well. This is one of the massive positives out of the game yesterday, is that we now have an absolute clear way of playing. And actually that is a good flexible way. It's like you run it if you can, and then you don't, you go pragmatic. Absolutely. But we don't go boring.
And more importantly, supporters can see it and they can get behind it.
Oh,
exactly. And it's not rocket science to get people on side. And I think we lost our way, didn't we, last year? And it's so clear now how we lost our way. And if it was Steve Lansdowne, or if it was the players, or if it was Pat in his hotel room, they realising that we have to have a way, and that is the Bears way.
Yeah.
Not
the lost, boys.
Not the lost way.
Absolutely. No. That's going to get bums on seats, isn't it? And I think for that, the day yesterday, the double header, great weather, great family. I mean, if youngsters saw that yesterday, they're going to come back time and time again. That can do nothing but, bump ticket sales, bump season tickets, hopefully. I mean, it was about 18,500 crowd.
So it's more than the Gloucester game.
Yeah.
And that's a Saturday afternoon.
Good on a Saturday. Hopefully some players hung around after the women's game. As we've sort of, alluded to, to get some seats in the mid-Atio was a good shout. Yep. You've got fans on all four sides of the pitch, so there's cheering there. So I thought that was a big tick for Bristol. So,
Well, look, boys, we did talk about this before the game and before the pod, and said we've got to try and be a bit sharper because we've got a few more things to talk about. But before we finish on this, I just thought a few performances just to go through, a few players to pick out in terms of their performances. We've discussed young lads generally, but of course we had some real old stalwarts and some quality operators in the team. And Miles, do you want to go first? Just pick one pair out each.
Okay, I'm just going to pick a couple, really. I mean, Fitzharding absolutely played a blinder as captain. I mean, there's not many forwards. I think only 2 in Bristol history have got hat-tricks in the forwards.
I mean, he was
and
brilliant,
he was sublime. And then, I think basically, has Harry Randall that played himself into the England number 9 shirt after yesterday's performance?
I had a discussion with Mark, who sits in front of me.
That's a good discussion. I think he has.
He said, I think Van Portfleet. And I said, I agree. Van Portfleet probably will start with Mitchell injured. But I think, it depends how England want to play. And I think Harry, up to the point where he kicked it out in the full, I think my argument was looking pretty good. But I thought he had a great game.
Depends on what Borthwick wants, doesn't he? Yeah. I mean, he's put his name up there after yesterday.
Oh, and I think he deserves his chance.
Just to go back to your Harding, because that's another thing I said in the post, that he was a positive. Now, I actually said, is there a better club captain in club rugby at the moment? And I don't really know what they're like in France, but I just think, you look at this guy, he had 3 tries, 22 carries, 14 tackles, 4 offloads, and last week at Exeter it was the same, and he had no missed tackles. And also this guy's the captain at 24. So that means something as well. And I think you talk about leading from the front, and that's often a cliche, but mate, he is the dictionary definition of leading at the front at the moment. And I think that's a huge positive as well, that we've got this kind of unassuming leader who maybe still got to learn things like talking to the ref, and maybe could have decided.
I think he is learning,
but I think he's getting better. And I think things like you could pick up, maybe he should have kicked for points rather than the corner, whatever. But the thing is, it's actually in the heat of battle what he's doing, and he was unbelievable.
Yeah.
So I think we have to have a massive head. We're so fortunate to have him at the moment, and fingers crossed that we keep him injury free. What about you, Lee?
And this guy's going to be around.
He's going to be with us, and he's going to be a club legend if he stays with us, because he could be here with us for 10 years, if not more.
Easy.
Because he knows that he was given that chance, and he's obviously impressed, and he's obviously shown what he's got, and Pat has rewarded him, and I think that's brilliant. Any other players?
Yeah, I wanted to give a really big shout out to the centres. I think Bates and Jenkins, I mean, that was an area I think we were all worried as supporters when, obviously we'd lost Jimmy Williams recently, and then Van Rensburg being out kind of last minute. And I just think that those two stepped up massively. And again, the future really is bright for Bears. I just thought they were great. And Jenkins, I'm a massive fan of. I think he's so silky watching him play.
Silky is a great word. Do you know who the last silky player we had of that ilk?
Go on.
Morahan.
Oh God, yeah.
He is the new Luke Morahan.
Absolutely.
But yeah, Jenkins. Someone said this elsewhere on socials, that when he goes into contact, he's got that like elusive hip sway that gets him a yard beyond.
Well, he must have learned that from Semi. Yeah. He must have, because I mean, it is Semi-esque, isn't it? And I just think he's brilliant. And I thought Bates stepping in, I know he got injured as well, didn't he, Bates? And I just think these guys, they put their bodies on the line, and they're two young lads that have stepped up with no experience, no experienced heads outside of them. Yeah. And I thought they were brilliant. Yeah. But then we could say that about the whole team, I think.
Exactly. And I think I'd just like to mention AJ McGinty again. Didn't have the greatest day off the tee. But again, the guy that's 34, you wouldn't say he's a top level 100-metre sprinter, but he's still making breaks, and it's all an intelligent rugby brain.
I mean, these dummies are just sublime, aren't they? Which are catching.
The Toby Fricker try, when he made the break.
The one he got the try for.
Yeah, that he gave to, no, but McGinty made the break, and then he was about to get tackled, but he kind of dummied, and like they all went into each other. It was like watching. It was like one of those films where you're going through traffic lights, in a car chase, and you just get through, and all of the other cars smash into each other, and then he had the wit to throw a massive wide pass to the Frickster.
He's one of those like old heads who kind of knows how to play the game, and it comes so easily to him.
But this is what it's about. It's about having that core. It's like in football, you have a good team has a good centre-back, a good centre-mid, a good centre-forward, the spine. Yeah. And I mean, the likes of Batley, we could say it every week. Joe Batley, Grondona, the Ogray, they're just, at the moment, the pack is looking good. And I think my other one, the final one, because I'll say a player that was interesting, someone we haven't seen before, was young Benjamin Elizalde, who came on very briefly, and then he went off and he came back on, and he looks like he's got a bit of I would say je ne sais quoi, but he speaks Spanish, and I don't know what that is, but no sabe quoi. But anyway, so I think that was another massive plus point, is that him getting some game time. So it's now that what's going to happen is when all our players are fit again, we're now going to have competition, because some of these young lads, it's like, whoa, no boys, no, you don't just get back in. Like, mate, you can clean my boots, and I like that.
I mean, and that's exactly what we want.
It's exactly what we want.
Like Thacker appears to be fit again, doesn't he? Yep. But how do you? Ogray's playing a blinder every single game, isn't he? So that's Thacker's got to play his way back into that team.
You think, like last season, you'd think it would be unheard of that Thacker didn't step straight back into that, number 2 position, and now you're thinking, I don't know, because Ogray's been so good.
I know.
You can't kick him out. He's cemented that place at the moment.
Well, look, boys, I think we've done that justice. I think everyone who was there will know what we're talking about, and hopefully people that weren't there and only seen highlights will get a sense of it. But of course, we do like to have listener interaction in these podcasts. So this week, slightly different. We took the recorder down to Ashton Gate, and we did manage to catch some Sarries fans, and we also managed to catch 3 Bears fans, and so we thought, well, why don't we insert what they thought, because it's always nice to hear what they thought. So first of all, I'm going to play the two Sarries fans, and it is quite noisy. It's authentic. And then I'm going to play the Bears fans, and all I'll say is that they have been on before.
So Bob Tinley from Crowd Angel, delighted to be here. We always come every year for a night out in Bristol, and the rugby is the best. So we were quite glad Max Malins wasn't playing, but you had us on the go at least twice there, and if you can learn to keep the ball for 90 seconds, you had us beat. It was cliffhanger.
Yeah, I mean it's a disappointing because we never seem to beat you at Ashton Gate. I thought two fairly evenly matched sides. I've always been a bit critical about Elliot Daly, but today I thought he showed his class. Do you agree?
Definitely. Daly and Lozowski, just brought it through. But your passing out of the hand was quite incredible. You had us all on the ropes, so it was a good finish for us, and we are delighted to take the points.
I really appreciate you giving us your thoughts, and have a good trip.
Absolute pleasure. Love coming to Ashton Gate.
I miss better half, Carol. Bristol is always an amazing place to come. Everybody is so friendly. We love it every time. I absolutely adore watching your current style of rugby. Og Gray is amazing. I thought he was outstanding last week. I thought he was really dangerous this week. And Ibitoya as well. I mean, we were lucky to get that at the end. We hung in there and got it, but amazing. But more importantly, the location, the fans, it's worth travelling. Thank you.
Do you know what? I am absolutely gutted for the boys. I think they played with their heart and they were so unlucky to win that game. I think they should have won. They were the fair winners at the end of the day.
Heather, last time I saw you were basically asleep for the whole of the game. It looks like you've been awake today. What did you think of the game?
I've been awake today, but again, I'm gutted about the Bears. I feel like we should have won that game. Referee was not on our side today.
And then finally, Mary.
First of all, I am the biggest fan and I support this podcast wholeheartedly. I think we put out a bit of a different team the last couple of weeks, but we have a team that can play the full 80 minutes, which a lot of teams don't have. I think we gave it our all. We played really well. The ref wasn't really on our side, and I think that's what did it today. It was very close, and we go again on Friday next week. I'm excited.
Right, well, boys, there was a couple of fans and their thoughts. I thought the Sarries fans were very, very complimentary about our setup. One thing that did make me chuckle is that when the wife came in and she said, "I'm Carol, his better half," and I thought, yeah, there's the trousers right there. And then, of course, the other fans we met were our friends Alice, Mary and Heather, who we last met on the away trip to Quins. It's always nice to hear their dulcet tones. But I think it's important. There is a serious point there that we had some good banter with them on the away trip. And on the basis of us sort of bantering with them about Bears and the podcast, they've all gone and bought season tickets. And not just season tickets in the South Stand. They've dipped into their pockets and season tickets in the Lansdowne.
I know.
Fantastic.
So,
and I'd like to think that there have been a lot of chat pre-season about people not renewing season tickets for various reasons, good and bad. But it's nice to know that there are some fans that have come new to the gate, and this is really what it's all about as well. So great stuff. And then of course,
it's great to see everyone, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then of course the other thing is we do like to read the odd poem out. This week again we're running out a little bit of time, but we did last time. I forgot to read out a limerick. And actually, it was a bit of a change up from the acrostics, and I did actually tweet the limerick out to say this was a very good limerick. But this week, the same guy, he's Edward H. Have Cake Will Eat It, has sent another limerick, and I feel obliged this week to read it out. So here we go, boys. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to guess it. And here we go. He said he started by saying, "Disappointing to lose yesterday, but what a game. Take the learnings," with a little wink. And then here it goes. He said, "The last minute loss was not a delight. But look at our boys, the future is bright. The Bears' way is back, well, at least in attack. Bring on the Saints for our next thrilling night."
You could have said it with a bit more passion, Teach.
Well, I just thought I said it with gravitas.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was gravitas.
He's almost sort of
The end bit was gravitas. You needed to build us up first.
It was like he was reading it under candlelight, wasn't he? to his children or something.
I could just create an atmosphere.
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah,
I'll
he's a teacher. Yeah, got to help these geography students.
He's gone from his telephone voice to his husky voice now, hasn't he?
I'll take the learnings. But anyway, Miles, we've got to move on. We've got to move on because there wasn't just the men's game on Saturday. It was a double header, as we all know, and it was the women's game. And I actually got down for the second half of it, and I can report that despite a lot of consternation in the run-up in the week about if you went to the women's game, did you have to stay in Ashton Gate for hours?
Right.
They did run this wristband thing, which I'm still wearing, and it worked really, really well. It was really nice, and actually it meant that I could just wander into the Lansdowne. I managed to sit in the Lansdowne, watch the game, and it was an interesting game. It wasn't quite as close as the men's game. I'd say that the women tried hard. I saw most of the second half. They kind of let them get away, then they got back into it, and then ultimately they didn't get there. But don't listen to what I've got to say about it.
No.
Well, here's the big scoop. Miles and me, after leaving the sports bar, decided to nip into the Bristol Beer Factory
just to see our friends.
Just to see our friends. We wandered around into the tap room, into the studio bar, to find in front of us about 15 women dressed in lederhosen on an Oktoberfest night out, led by one man, Dave Ward. And it was basically...
It was the Bears women.
It was the Bears women team all on a social. Anyway, we thought, well, we were quite respectful. But then we actually...
What, even Miles?
Miles had a few.
I'd
had a few beers.
I was thinking, I think we should just leave them on their own to enjoy themselves. But Miles was like, no, get in there. He started chatting to them. Anyway, it turned out, let's just cut a long story short, they were loving the fact that we did the podcast, and they knew a bit about it, but some of them hadn't heard about it. And so they said they were really happy to do a soundbite. And then Miles went and got Dave Ward. He said he'd do it. So basically, we have a little treat for all of our listeners. For the first time ever on Bears Beyond the Gate, we have audio soundbites from 4 of our Bears women, followed immediately by head coach, by the gaffer.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's listen to it now.
So, quite an exciting situation. I've gone down the Bristol Beer Factory, and I happen to be here with a lot of the Bears women tonight who are out on a social after their game. So I'm here with Meg Varley, I'm here with Jenny Herring, Ella Lovibond and Delaney Burns. Right, I'm going to start with Meg. Just tell us what you thought about the game today.
Right, if I'm being honest, ball press was shite. But ultimately, we're against Saracens, we're at home, we did okay, but the problem is we didn't step up to the occasion. Like I said, ball press was not okay. We just easy tries, didn't front up, but ultimately we moved, we go again.
Yeah, we didn't put our best front up today. We held. There's evidently times where we didn't quite perform the way we'd want to. But as a whole, on the bright side, we've got so much more to give, and in future, obviously, we'll have those things. We'll have those idiosyncrasies sorted out, and we'll be in our best place. So, obviously, today's one thing, but on future is another.
And then Jenny, I think you came on in the second half, didn't you? So, kind of, what was it like coming on? You're behind, but then we got back into it a few times. Did you think you were going to win it?
I think we never lost sight of the fact that maybe we could, but then at some point actually it becomes, we scored quite late in the second half, and then it was right, we go again. We talked a lot about momentum of the game, and if we have momentum, let's go and run with it. And maybe we just left it a bit too late to find that momentum and then maybe use it.
Brilliant. And then Ella, you're a bit of a stalwart, you play a lot. How was your feelings on the game?
Yeah, I mean, personally a bit frustrated, but I think the others already said it. I just think that, it was so great to have the occasion of the double header and have the men play after us, and it was so great to see fans that wouldn't normally come to watch us come and support us, and we really heard them, and I think there was 3,500 come in the end. So I think thank you to everyone that came to watch, and hopefully see them in more games in the future.
Right, I'm here with Dave Ward. Head coach. Are you head coach or are you DOR?
No, I'm a head coach. I'm
head coach. Let's get that right. So we're down the Bristol Beer Factory, and the Bears women are having a bit of a wind down after their game. But Dave has very kindly said that he'll tell Bears Beyond the Game what he thought about the game today.
Yeah.
No way!
That was Delaney Burns. Just
I've already spoken to her.
I think Delaney's had a few drinks to lighten the mood, which is this is what we want to do. It wasn't the result we wanted absolutely today, but we were always going to reintegrate the squad. The WXV Internationals, it's great to see Alicia Joyce Butchers, Lana Scout and those guys involved today. It wasn't the result we wanted, obviously, but it was a game where Saracens put their A game. We weren't far off it, and actually, we look forward to playing Saracens again. If you take that as you will.
I was going to say, my impression, having watched the second half, it was a good game of rugby. They got away a bit, then you came back, but that's not going to define your season. And of course, like last season, you almost did it. You got to the final, and you really, really got close against Gloucester Harbour, who are a quality side. Presumably, that is your target this season, is to win the Premiership Women's League.
No, absolutely, and Gloucester Harbour lost today. They lost home to Exeter, so again, they've proven they can be beaten. Saracens came to us and they got the win, so fair play to them in a way, but for us, like you say, it's our second game of the season. We're not getting carried away, both for the loss or for the win. We've got to be pragmatic. We won a home semi-final though, make no bones about it. We love people at Bristol coming to support us. There was 3,500 at the end of the game for us today, and we heard every cheer because we got into the game and we got within 7 points, and personally I thought we were going to do it. For Saracens, they showed what quality they are. They took the game away from us. So look, that's all well and good. We've got to make sure we integrate our internationals back into the squad, and then this season finishes pretty quickly. We're done in March. So for us, we've got to make sure we make the best of it.
So there we go, boys. A little bit of insight into the women's team. That was brilliant. I mean, it was great fun. It was great to chat to them, and hopefully we'll get a few more followers on Instagram on the back of it. But I think it's the start of a great relationship.
Well, absolutely. And, we're definitely going to go to their next home game, hopefully, aren't we? And support the women if it's at Shaftesbury Park. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's the women's game is really important to us as well, isn't it? And we're growing it, little by little. We're building the blocks for hopefully a big future. And the girls, I know they lost yesterday, but I think we'll do all right again this season.
One game, they got to the final last year, and so I think things are looking really positive for the Bristol Bears women's rugby team. And Dave Raw was such a nice chap. More than happy to give us an interview. Bless him. He had to get home and look after Abby and Hallie the next day, didn't he? As he pointed out.
It did make me laugh because as a male teacher at a girls' school, which some people know I am, I did feel for Dave a little bit as a male head coach because they were taking the mickey out of him big time. It was hilarious, and they made him do an arm wrestle with the boyfriend of one of the girls there, which he lost, and they were all mocking him. And you just, when I said, "Oh, what's Dave like?" and they were like, "Oh, he's hilarious." So you got that sense that there was this real kind of, they respected him, but they respected him, but they were comfortable enough to kind of to take the mickey out of it. Basically, that's what they were saying. Well, so fair play. It was a real insight.
That's what you call team bonding.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, who knows if we'll rock up to the next social? But it was
anyway.
Yeah, it was nice to see the women's team, letting their hair down.
Anyway, we've got to move on. We've got another game.
Yes, we have.
Yeah, we've got another game coming thick and fast.
Friday.
It's Friday lights, under the lights.
At the Fortress.
And hopefully we've boiled up the oil a little bit more. We've got those catapults ready. But of course it's Saints, where actually one of the teams we do manage to beat at home.
Yeah.
So, but rather than us preview it, I got in touch with a good friend of the pod, Tom Vickers, who is the rugby reporter for the Northampton Echo and Chronicle, and here's what he had to say. Okay, so I am joined once again by Tom Vickers from the Northampton Echo and Chronicle, who has been on the pod before. He's always very pleased to talk to us. Thanks very much, Tom. Hope you're well.
Yeah, good to speak to you again, Pete.
No worries. Well, both of our teams have played this weekend already, so this is quite a nice, fresh, up-to-date chat. Obviously, Northampton last season, despite, I'm going to get this in quickly, despite losing twice to Bristol last season, were deserved champions, I think. And obviously now, with a bit of a target on their back, having lost a couple of players over the summer. I mean, what was the sort of feeling over the summer about how they were going to get on this season?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's a bit of trepidation. Obviously, when you think you've got such a good squad already that's taken you to the title, and obviously they weren't just losing players. I mean, they were losing club legends like Alex Waller and Courtney Laws. Lewis Ludlam became a massive figure at the Gardens as a captain. So they were losing big influences, big voices in the team. But to be honest, they did manage to keep the majority of the core of the squad that they would have liked to keep. They're building a team around Finn Smith and Alex Mitchell, Tommy Freeman. There's Tom Pearson there, Alex Coles. There's actually a lot of leaders still at the Saints, and a lot of people that were doing a lot of the talking last season. George Fairbank obviously is now captain. So while they lost a lot of players, they also we're hoping that the players that were doing so well last season will even be able to take another step forward and sort of reach their prime. Players like Fraser Dingwall, Ollie Slightholme. I mean, it's been an incredible development at the Saints in terms of what they've done, and they're now introducing more young players, the under-20s players like Archie McParland and Henry Pollock, who are have been raved about as part of the under-20s setup. So. It's not like they lost all these players and there's no one left and there's no one to replace them. This is still a very, very exciting Saints squad. But as every club in the Premiership will know, once you start to get a few injuries, particularly in certain positions, Premiership squads these days, because of the reduced league size and because of the financial constraints, aren't extremely huge, so that if you lose 2 scrum halves, for example, you've still got a third experienced one. You're calling on younger players, so there was always going to be that. But they recruited fairly well. Josh Kemeny looks like a really good signing, and as I say, there's other players that were waiting to step up anyway. So there's still plenty of excitement about the Saints. Obviously, they would have loved to keep players like Courtney Laws and Alex Moon and things like that, but it just isn't feasible in the world of French clubs offering big money for these players. And Saints have been in this position many, many times over the years, and I'm sure they will be again. It's just how it is for Premiership clubs at the moment. But it's still very exciting at the Saints, and obviously looking forward to another trip to Bristol, which has certainly been an interesting venue for the Saints over the last few years.
Yeah, well, we'll just come on to that in a minute. I think, you had a great result on Friday, obviously at the Gardens, beating Sale, who have looked pretty good this season, and I think you're currently played 5-1-3, which is it's early season. I mean, how would you rate Saints' form at the moment in general?
Well, they've had 2 really tough away games, which are notoriously tough for them. Bath away, a very good opening night. Actually, we're well in that game with 20 minutes to go, and then 5 points down, and then the scoreline looks massive because obviously Bath ran away with it towards the end. And then the Leicester game, Saints, I've never seen anything like it. They had 5 no tries put up on the screen throughout the course of that game, and they eventually scored a try that got checked after the clock had gone red. So, I mean, they basically had loads of opportunities at Welford Road, but Leicester were far more clinical, took their chances, used their power game, defended well under pressure most of the time. And so that was a bit of a shame. There's sort of regrets from those 2 away games, and like any team will have missed opportunities. And then the 3 games they've won have obviously all come at the Gardens, where they've won, I think it's now 12 Premiership games in a row at the Gardens. So it's obviously a real fortress there for them, particularly under the Friday night lights. But obviously in the Premiership, if you can pick up these away wins, last season I think they picked up 5 or 6 away wins. Obviously not at Bristol, but they picked up some good away wins last season. And you have to try and find a way to get over the line in these games. And you look at what Bath are doing now. They've already won at Leicester. They won at Quins this weekend. Saracens, obviously, I don't want to upset you, but obviously they managed to find a way somehow to win the game against Bristol this weekend, which I was just staggered by. But that's just a classic Saracens win, really, in a way. So you have to find these away wins, and obviously Saints haven't found away wins at Bristol over the last few years. So they're going to need to start finding something on the road if they're obviously going to get to where they want to be this season.
Yeah, I mean, last season, it was a great win for us. There was a little bit of context. I think it was the first game back after the big Six Nations break. We only had to reintegrate, get Ellis Genge into the squad. I think we then used that time to get a lot of our players fit. We were also on the back of a kind of reboot of our attacking rugby style. And I just felt that night we probably caught you cold, actually, a little bit. I think we probably surprised you, and you had quite a good team out. And so obviously you've alluded to the fact that Saracens managed to do a job on us. I mean, we are playing some great rugby at the moment. But how do you think Phil Dowson's going to approach Friday to try and get that elusive away win at the Gate?
Well, I think what is a real shame about this fixture on Friday night is that it's Saints obviously aren't going to have 5 England players. They've already got 3 England players injured, so you're not going to see the full Saints team and squad there on Friday. They're going to have to make changes in key positions. Obviously, with no Finn Smith and no George Furbank, they actually don't have their first choice fly halves. They would be the two that they would normally play at fly half if Finn Smith's not around. Furbank would then move to fly half, so they're going to have to change something there. They're obviously going to be without Freeman, Slight-Home, Finn Smith, and they've already got Mitchell, Coles, Dingwall injured. There's just this laundry list of players that aren't going to be available, and obviously I know Bristol will miss, I think, Genge and Randall, won't they? But you've obviously got players in that Bristol squad who've got, who could have real claims on the England squad. I mean, I haven't seen so much of the other teams this season, but I have seen a bit of Bristol. I thought they were absolutely outrageously good against Bath away. I was just amazed by how good they were there. And I then watched the game yesterday, and as I say, I don't even know how Saracens won that game from watching that. I just could not believe it. I'm sure Bristol fans were stunned that they managed to not win that game, because I just thought, again, Bristol were very good. So how will Saints approach it? They're going to have to try and find a way to, weirdly, because obviously normally it's teams talking about slowing Saints down. Saints are going to have to try and find a way to slow Bristol down. But the way that Bristol seem to be offloading at the moment, and the way Bristol have played on that Ashton Gate pitch against Saints in the last couple of years, 2 half centuries against them in the last 2 Premiership meetings, it doesn't fill anyone of a Northampton persuasion with huge confidence there. But I think in reality, the players that will go there this week and the coaches, they'll love that. They'll love that challenge. They'll think we surely can't do any worse. I mean, they could have another bad performance there, but they surely can't do any worse than they did in the last 2 Premiership meetings there. So they've got that challenge there, and actually maybe a lot of people will not think too much of Saints' chances this week, and maybe they'll like that. But it's still a big task, because obviously Bristol just seem to be playing with so much confidence this season. And I did note the team news for Bristol last week when it said that Bernard Janty van Rensburg and Stephen Luatur aren't available against Saracens, but it's okay, they'll be back against the Saints. And I just thought, that's good. That's great news.
So there we go. There's Tom. I just should say that he does sound a bit like a robot, because I spoke to him over the phone and was recording what he said on our recorder. So my voice sounds really clear, and his voice sounds like what you do when you record someone off your phone. Yeah. But as I'm sure all of you could tell, yet again, it's great to have these journalists on. They know their stuff. And of course, he was pretty complimentary about the Bears, and also pretty nervous about what was going to happen, given the recent form that Saints have had against the Bears, and given the fact that they're going to be missing a lot of players through England and through injury as well. So rather than us kind of talk about any more, I think Tom's covered it. I think the best thing for us to do is have a little chat about who we think are going to be starting on Friday, and perhaps who's our bench going to be. So Miles, do you want to go have a go, and then when you run out of ideas, we'll go to Lee?
Well, absolutely. I mean, that's great to have Tom on. We've had a good record against Saints, but there's no getting away from the fact they absolutely stormed it against Sale at the weekend, and a huge score. So that is for Bristol fans, that's something to be worried about. That their attack is on form. They're like the Bristol team. So
the bonus is they're going to miss their internationals,
and we're going to miss Randall and Genji next week on England duty, aren't we? So so stepping in, we would probably think that Woolly's going to start, don't we? Jake Woolmore up on the front row, and Kieran Marmion, who started against Chiefs last week, and we think, like you pointed out, Wolstenholme will probably come in on the bench as our substitute number 9, and he's been great before. Other than that, well, it's injury dependent, isn't it? There was Pat did suggest that Bernard, Janssen van Rensburg, and Lewitt just failed a late fitness test and could be back for next Friday. So I think, that step up with those 2 on board will be huge, and that probably will hopefully get us over the line and beat Saints.
Yeah.
Anything to add?
No, I think Miles has summed that up perfectly. I think obviously Yancey, we need him in. I think we all agree that as well as Bates did. I think if Yancey's fit, he's nailed on. He's first team on the first name on the team sheet.
Even with one leg, he's got to play, hasn't he? If he can run it.
And obviously with Lewitt, if he comes back in at 6, and then that kind of just solidifies that back line as well. And I just think, I'm quite confident. I am really quite confident about this game, just because they've got a lot of players out and we've got not so many. And we will miss Randall. We will miss the speed of Randall. Obviously, we'll miss Genji. Goes without saying.
Yeah, you're right.
But I think even though, like Miles has said, these guys, they didn't just beat Sale, they whooped them. Some of Tom's ratings in the Northampton Chronicle, these guys were getting like 8s, 9s all throughout the pitch. But
did Sale have their full strength side out?
Yeah, Sale.
Blimey, okay, Sale, sorry.
But a lot of those players won't be playing.
No,
so that's the bonus.
Exactly.
I think all I can add to that is that I think their scrum half is really good. Tom James, I think he's a real good Alex Mitchell understudy, but I think they are going to be missing Furbank. Well, they're going to be missing Finn Smith, and then if Finn Smith was injured, Furbank would normally go 10. He's going to be missing, so they're going to be their third choice fly half. And we know that games can be won and lost in the halfbacks, and of course we've got McGinty. So Marmion is an international, ex-international. So I think we're going to be ahead in the halfbacks. I think the pack, as you say, will be good. Trevor Davison, their tight head is going to probably be with England. He would have been up against Genge, so that kind of cancels it out. So I think it's a head-to-head on the second strings there. And I think it'd be interesting to see if Janssen van Rensburg comes back in. It will be Jenkins and him, Bates on the bench, unless Bates goes out to one of the wings. We don't know, because Fricker had a good game, but probably was not expected to be playing
so soon
at all. And actually, an interesting thing Tom told me off the recording, was that Fricker went for a trial at Northampton before he came to us, and they didn't take him on, which is quite ironic.
Well, even more fuel.
Yeah, and I think Elizalde will get on the bench somewhere, and we may see him again. Ibitoya obviously starts on the other wing. Yeah, I just think it'll be. I think that the odds are going to be with us, and I think it will be on paper. We won't really know until the 2 team sheets are out, but I think on paper we've got to be looking for a comfortable home victory.
Are we playing on paper or on grass?
We're playing everywhere.
One thing I was going to say. Sorry,
go for it. No, you go for it, mate.
One Saints player I am looking forward to seeing is Emery Pollock. England under 21s, because I've seen him. I've seen him play.
He's got a bit of Withywood in him, hasn't he?
Oh, he really has.
For a posh boy.
That's for a posh boy. But that's one of the players I love to see.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to seeing it as well. Actually,
let's just. I think this Friday, the Friday coming really. Fans expect to win. Come on, let's not muck around here. This so-called fortress of Ashton Gate, and we've been joking around, has been a bit leaky thus far.
It's been overrun.
We're overrun, absolutely. The drawbridge has got to come up. The portcullis
has got to come down. Hang on, what comes first? Have you got to put the portcullis down before you pull the drawbridge up?
It's got to.
Yeah, because there's no point putting the drawbridge up first, because then your portcullis it doesn't matter, does it?
I've never had membership to English Heritage, so I don't understand this thing. I'm a National Trust man. Anyway, joking aside, it's our third game down at the gate. We're all going to be there, and we've got to win. It's all right winning on the road. 3 defeats at home
would be catastrophe.
Would be a bit of a catastrophe. We're not going to stay in the top 4 if we can't win on our own patch. Simple as that.
Okay. Well, I think seeing as you've seeing as you're a National Trust man, Miles, I don't think I can add to that.
They don't have a drawbridge at Tinsfield, do they?
Can I just say,
I don't think so,
because
mate.
I know we have a whole range of listeners on this pod, can I just say that's got to be the most middle-aged, middle-class statement I have ever heard. I'm not an English heritage man, I'm a National Trust man.
It could have only come from Miles.
It could have only come from me, exactly. Yeah, the Duchess will back me up. Anyway, so
let's move on.
We're looking forward to it.
Yeah, we're moving on. Right, boys, let's move on. We're doing well. We've got the last little bit of any other business. I wanted to start by just giving a very brief shout outs to a couple of people we met on Saturday. And I do massively appreciate it. And it also makes me kind of laugh when people come up and say, best be on the gate. And I just think, it just makes me
voice.
Yeah. So Tom Bartley,
yes,
he's massive as well. He's about twice my size, really tall guy. He does quite a lot of interactions and follows us and likes things. So really nice to meet you, Tom. Steve Bold, who is the chair of North Bristol Rugby Club, what would be considered a proper rugby man. Had a nice chat with him. May get in touch with him again about a few things. And also there was, I really apologise to who it was, but it was somebody who went to Dave Atwood's Apero Bar and did the whole, I listened to Bears Be on the Gate and I like dry roast, and she ended up buying 2 Aperos pictures, and then she posted it onto our story on Instagram. So that was fun.
Excellent.
And actually on that side, we obviously chatted to Dave Atwood. It's all been smoothed over now. The slight problem we had, because Jamie went and saw him, got his discount, sent us a photo.
That was a brilliant
and then
photo,
the irony was he sent us he goes, the whole irony in this is I don't even like Aperol Spritz. And
that is absolutely class, isn't it?
And so actually, that reminds me. Shout outs, Dave Atwood. Dave gave us some of his hot toddy.
Absolutely. And me saying I was just going to have 1 pint, I have moved on to Dave Atwood's hot toddy, and which is like a really nice spiced sort of mulled cider. So really appreciate that, Dave Atwood. And
that's going to be a big seller.
It's perked me up. It's perked me up on what I was going to say. Not drinking.
Miles is sweating again.
But I mean, that is the perfect drink to go with a National Trust man. That
It really is, isn't it? All he needs is a little blanket, his tartan blanket.
So Miles is now saying live on the pod that he's going to go with his driving gloves, his little blanket down to Ashton Gate,
down to Tinsfield,
and he's gonna have his little flask of Dave's hot toddy, and then he's gonna sit on his seat. And in the first half, he's gonna get his little knees together. He's gonna put his little blanket on his knees, and he's gonna get his little hot toddy out, and he's gonna neck it all the way through.
I'm gonna say though, right? I am impressed with Miles, because he did say, "Oh, it's not really hot enough." But I know an experienced man like Miles is. If he would have boiled that alcohol out of it, then he would have ruined it anyway.
It is nice.
It's a really
It is
drink,
nice. I'm drinking it now, and it's a bit like mulled wine, but it's got a little bit of extra, a bit of extra kind of Mediterranean push on it. So cheers for that, Dave. And then finally, you've got a shout out for a big friend of the pod who sadly lost his job at the recent local elections. Used to be councillor Steve Smith. But
thanks for the big up.
But you wanted to mention him though.
Yeah, I just wanted to say it was. I found it really funny. It was my sense of humour. Steve was going to do an acrostic, and it began with. I won't read it out, but it began with an F and a U and a C, and then he said and then I went home or something like that. Yeah. But it really was my sense of humour. So I did love that, Steve. That was brilliant.
It is, Joe. So we're really enjoying the interactions with...
Yeah.
Obviously got a bit more time on his hands at the moment, hasn't he? No disrespect.
It's harsh, isn't it? It's harsh.
Well, yeah, but he's loving it. Anyway, so Steve, we do appreciate your interactions. They're really,
I'm
really
sure
good.
he's busy doing other things.
Oh, I'm sure he is, yeah. No,
absolutely.
I know. Anyway, so that's the shout-outs done. A couple of other things. Last week, we mentioned walking rugby.
We did, yeah.
Which was basically a conversation I had with my mate Hobbsy on the way back from golf. Anyway, it's turned into a massive thing. He's passed it on to Nelsie and Backwell walking. His wife like his cock-a-hoop that I mentioned it, their cock-a-hoop. They're really appreciative of the fact that we mentioned Walking Rugby, the Silver Ravens. We now might be lining up an interview with the chairman of Nelsie and Backwell. But of course, on the back of that, we had a very nice email from a guy called Dave Joseph, who emailed us, and I'll read it out. He said, "Dear guys, you mentioned Nelsie Walking Rugby in your last episode. Nelsie is just one of several clubs in the Bristol area where people can play walking rugby. My own club, Broadplain, in South Bristol, brackets training on Monday mornings.
That's got to be our local club.
Yeah, it is. Kingswood, brackets Thursday mornings. Ashley Down, brackets Friday mornings. You know, the morning thing.
I think these are non-working or retired people.
They are. That is the idea, Miles.
It's not. Miles, get with the agenda, mate.
But also,
take that Aperol off.
Just to be a bit more maverick, North Bristol, Steve Bowles, North Bristol, they're Monday evenings.
Oh,
so
get away from the wives.
But he also said there are also walking rugby clubs further afield: Trowbridge, Melksham, Weston, Chippenham.
It's a long walk.
He says they're always great fun and welcoming to new players, both ex-players and those who just want some healthy exercise in a friendly atmosphere. A mention would be great. All the clubs are always looking for new members. A great podcast. It always entertains me when I'm doing my chores on a Monday afternoon."
Nice.
Cheers, Dave.
Rugby in the morning.
That's lovely.
That's fair play. Rugby in the morning, chores in the afternoon. Yeah,
I love it. I love it.
Chores, it reminds me of Miles. You're a chore man, aren't you?
I do a lot of chores.
You're an allotment chore man.
Why do you do a lot of chores, Miles?
Well, because as you well know,
he's been all in the fort.
Pete's better half and my better half.
Better fort than Ashton Gate.
That's Fortress Clark.
Yeah, I've been having a little girly weekend in Devon, leaving us in charge of, there are our own children.
Although my missus did choose to come back a bit early and was back by 1 o'clock.
Yeah,
but your missus decided to stay there a bit longer.
They got stuck on the M4 in a crash. I know.
But obviously didn't want to rush back for you or anything like that. Anyway. Let's leave it at that, boys. We're done. We're through. We have got a goat that came up. We're going to leave it. It was from another friend of the pod, guy called Richard Slate, who emailed us about it. But we did bump into him in the Bristol Beer Factory kiosk queue. So, Rich, really nice to chat to you.
Yeah.
But we really, and we did apologise. Well, we apologise for Miles not replying to your email. But we're gonna hold that one back. And maybe chat about it.
It's relevant in next month, isn't it? So we'll chat about
And the only other thing I want to mention is that on Friday with the Northampton Saints game, we were approached by an external organisation who were quite keen for us to do something during the game. And all I'll say is we might mention it on next week's pod.
Okay.
Because
You're going to tell us?
Yeah, I will. I'll tell you. I'll tell you afterwards. Yeah, because I forgot to tell you. But the point I'm saying is, it's one of those things that could work, but I don't want to say what it is in case it all goes wrong.
Oh, okay. It's not a Freeman Mexican wave, is it?
No. Anyway, on that note, that little bit of mystery at the end to make people listen next week to find out what it was. I think we'll leave it there, boys. We've cracked through quite a lot of stuff tonight.
Yeah, it's good.
It's been great to see you. It's been great to be drinking the beer down the Bristol Beer Factory. Everybody, have a good week. Stay safe and
come on, you Bears.